Welcome to the video on Introduction to Requirement Gathering. After watching this video, you will be able to explain the importance of requirement gathering, discover the key steps in requirement gathering, recognize the challenges in requirement gathering, and describe the best practices for effective requirement gathering. Requirement gathering is a cornerstone of successful business analysis. It lays the foundation for all subsequent project activities and has a direct impact on the project's outcome. By following a structured approach, effectively engaging stakeholders, and using best practices, business analysts can ensure that the requirements are well-defined, aligned with business objectives, and feasible within project constraints. This, in turn, leads to the development of solutions that deliver real value to the organization. Requirement gathering is vital for several reasons. Firstly, it ensures that all stakeholders have a clear understanding of what needs to be achieved. Misunderstandings or assumptions can lead to project delays, increased costs, or even project failure. By gathering requirements, you're clearly defining the project scope. This helps in avoiding scope creep, where additional features are added without considering the impact on timelines and budgets. Also, when you identify and document requirements early on, you can anticipate potential challenges and risks. This allows for the development of mitigation strategies before the project moves into development. Properly gathered and analyzed requirements reduce the need for rework, thus saving time and resources. It ensures that the project stays within budget. Finally, accurately capturing stakeholder needs through effective requirements gathering enhances overall satisfaction and increases the likelihood of project success. The process of requirement gathering includes following key steps: requirement elicitation, requirement documentation, requirement analysis, requirement validation, and requirement management. Let's walk through these steps. The first step is requirement elicitation, which involves actively engaging with stakeholders to uncover their needs and expectations. There are several techniques you can use. You can conduct one-on-one or group interviews with stakeholders to gather detailed information about their needs and expectations. You can organize collaborative sessions where stakeholders can brainstorm and discuss requirements collectively. Structured surveys are useful for gathering quantitative data on stakeholder needs. By watching how end users interact with current systems or processes, you can identify areas of improvement. Reviewing existing documentation, such as process flows, system manuals, or previous project reports, can also provide relevant information. The next step, requirement documentation, is about organizing and documenting the information you've gathered. There can be different components of requirement documentation. Business Requirements Document, or BRD, is a high-level document outlining the business needs and the scope of the project. Functional Requirements Document, or FRD, is a detailed documentation specifying the functions that the system must perform to meet business requirements. Use cases and user stories are scenarios that describe how users will interact with the system, helping to clarify functional requirements. Wireframes and prototypes are visual representations of user interfaces to provide a clear picture of how the final system will look and function. The requirement analysis step is crucial for ensuring that documented requirements are practical, feasible, and aligned with the project's goals. Let's look at the key activities involved in requirement analysis. Gap analysis involves identifying the differences between the current state and the desired future state and determining the necessary steps to bridge those gaps. Feasibility analysis is essential to assess whether the proposed solutions are technically, financially, and operationally feasible. You also need to prioritize requirements based on factors such as business value, urgency, and cost to ensure that the most critical requirements are addressed first. Once the requirements have been analyzed, the next essential step is requirement validation. Let's understand the key activities involved in requirement validation. You hold meetings with stakeholders to review and validate the documented requirements. This ensures that all needs are accurately captured and understood. By creating early versions of the system or specific features, you can validate requirements and gather feedback before full-scale development. A traceability matrix ensures that each requirement is traceable through the project's different phases, from initial gathering to final implementation. The final step in the requirement gathering process is requirement management. Let's explore the key aspects of requirement management. Change is inevitable in any project. Implementing a process to handle changes in requirements effectively, ensuring that they are reviewed, approved, and documented before being incorporated into the project. Keeping track of different versions of requirement documents is required to track changes and ensure that the project team is always working with the most current information. Clear and consistent communication is key to successful requirement management. Keeping all stakeholders informed about the status of requirements, changes, and the overall progress of the project ensures that everyone is aligned. Although requirement gathering is critical in any project, it comes with its fair share of challenges. Let's take a look at some of the most common challenges for requirement gathering. Sometimes requirements may be vague or not well defined, leading to misunderstandings and misinterpretations. Different stakeholders may have conflicting priorities or expectations, making it difficult to gather a coherent set of requirements. Over time, additional requirements might be added to the project, leading to an uncontrolled expansion of the project scope. This can result in delays and budget overruns. Poor communication between stakeholders and the project team can result in incomplete or inaccurate requirements. Business environments are dynamic, and requirements may change over time. Managing these changes without disrupting the project timeline is a significant challenge. Let's recap what you learned in the video. Requirement gathering is a cornerstone of successful business analysis. It is vital for several reasons, such as clarity and alignment, scope definition, risk mitigation, cost efficiency, and stakeholder satisfaction. The process of requirement gathering includes following key steps: requirement elicitation, requirement documentation, requirement analysis, requirement validation, and requirement management. Some of the challenges for requirement gathering are ambiguity, stakeholder misalignment, scope creep, communication barriers, and changing requirements.